Hi everybody, it's Davin Nagel here. I'm a senior software consultant from WorkPal, and today we've got the one and only Kevin Cosgrove from Efficient Climate Controls, and we worked together in implementing the system for them, and we built a very busy, interesting system workflow for them. So Kevin, say hello and tell us about Efficient Climate Controls. How long have you been in business?
Hey, Devin. We
No worries.
Efficient Climate Control are in business a little over 9 years now. We specialize in air conditioning and mechanical services, mainly the HVAC industry altogether, but we also do a lot of heating controls and associated equipment too. Our day-to-day is everything from installation of small split systems to commissioning of megawatt chillers, down to overhauling of heating pumps and mechanical services for hotels, office blocks, and commercial premises.
Lovely. And how long are you in business, did you say?
Just over 9 years.
Well, and how many engineers in the club, in the company?
We currently have 11 vans on the road, and we
Wow.
have about 15 staff total.
Brilliant, brilliant. So nice, healthy company on the growth path. And then you and I came into, I suppose, a conversation about workflow management, maybe. And we had a couple of meetings where I did a couple of presentations for you on how you want to use the system and how it could work for you. And what kind of problems were you coming up against at that early stage?
Well, initially we were looking at going digital maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because we were working off paper dockets and Excel spreadsheets. And the big problems we were having was that the reports weren't coming back to us for, in some cases, a week or two, because you could have people booked in for jobs down the country where they might have to stay away. And it meant that the signed dockets that we were waiting for to invoice were sitting in someone's van for up to 2 weeks at a time. And it meant we were just waiting the whole time to get it. And especially for the likes of quoting follow-up works, it made it very difficult to keep track of and to keep on top of it, because you had customers ringing looking for prices on stuff that the engineer had told them was wrong, but it hadn't come back to the office yet. So it was very difficult to keep on top of things in that respect.
So in a nutshell, all the paperwork that you capture on a site and a job, that's all mission critical when it comes to sending out a completed invoice, essentially.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like anyone who's on this will probably tell you the same, that unless you can send your customer a docket with a signature on it, customer won't pay an invoice.
Yeah. And so effectively then what you have is a delay and then proof of works, and the whole thing just takes forever.
That's it, exactly, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And tell me, what forms did we build for you into the app, and how has that helped? Tell us about your forms. What types of forms do you use?
Well, initially we were using Excel spreadsheets, and it was literally just a case of we would have a list of the assets with a very small check sheet on the side of them. So for us, this was a big thing, was building the forms, because we never actually had individual asset forms as such. So we designed 3 different service forms, which we're in the process now of looking to overhaul to sort of streamline them a bit, because we've been with WorkPal now for just over a year, and we can see now what functionality we can use to help ourselves and speed things up for ourselves. We also do a lot of work for some bigger contractors, and we were able to put their forms onto their dockets and their service forms onto WorkPal for ourselves as well. So like that, if the lads are doing a job for another one of our customers who is the primary contractor, we can get their dockets back to the office with the second they're signed.
Yeah, and we also have client portals, so the larger contractor can just log in and grab all the paperwork digitally. We don't even have to contact them. So maybe we need to set that up for you next.
That might be an idea we look at, yeah.
So then, in terms of like managing the workflow, that's grand, all about forms and digital forms and everything. So we build them to spec, we annotate them, the customer sends them to us. We sit meetings to review how we can implement them the best into the app, and then they come up on the app and they're easy to use to fill out, and they can be edited, and there's drafts, and that we can have mandatory triggers on our forms. But tell us, regarding your engineers, how did they take to actually using a mobile app?
They actually took to it quite well. We had a very basic app in place for a short while before we went with WorkPal, but it didn't deal with asset management, which is something I was very keen to get implemented. A previous company I was with had something in place that was good, nowhere near the same level as WorkPal, but it was okay. And we were able, I was keen to bring that asset management aspect in.
And I suppose the thing with asset management is that in WorkPal, you do your job sheet by using the app, by putting in your parts, task, time, labor, signatures. On the mobile side of things, you know, the jobs are sent to you. You can create jobs for mission critical callouts. Do you create your own jobs on the app on weekends or in the evenings or anything like that, or are you just happy?
Oh yeah, the lads do add their own jobs, and if it's very straightforward. We have it divided up into groups, and then the groups are divided up into customers. And one thing that we found a big advantage over some of the other places where that we could have individual sites instead of just having, for example, Tesco as a customer. You can actually set up each individual site, which was very handy for us because it means your assets are site specific. You're not trolling through 10,000 assets of one customer to find the one that you need. It's just what's on the site. And it means that when the lads are going in to do the service and the maintenance, they know exactly what's on that site. They know we have locations listed for everything so they can find the stuff, and we can leave notes as well, which was a big plus for WorkPal that the lads have found very useful. They can leave notes for other engineers to say, if you're going into this room, there's a particular access code, or the codes for the controls on our air conditioning units. We can have all of that saved on the app, and it saves a lot of phone calls, especially if someone is getting a call out in the middle of the night. They're not having to ring people at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so the engineers are sleeping better at night because the information on their system is correct.
Oh, that's it, yeah. And the fact that the lads can edit the information, because if you're taking down a list of 100 assets, there's a good chance you're going to get 1 or 2 serial numbers wrong. And the guys are able to edit that themselves on site, if applicable. Yeah.
And in terms of, you know, the lads, you know, like every company I deal with, and I've implemented this with multiple HVAC companies in Ireland. And obviously we use it in so many other sectors, but today's HVAC. So within this, I suppose, within this circumference of HVAC, the engineers, we have engineers who are really good on an app. And then we might have other guys who are not so technical. And so companies have, directors in particular, I would find, are always worried about 1 or 2 guys. What's the experience with the lads using WorkPal on their phone? Are they constantly ringing our head office talking to support, looking for help, or is it been a good experience?
No, well, I was recently introduced Nick Waters as our customer success manager. He contacted me straight off the bat and said he wanted to set up a phone call or a meeting just to go through everything that we were experiencing, problems and successes. We went through everything with him, and any problems that we had, which was 90% of it is user error, he came back with solutions for us. So the likes of lads not taking pictures, we now have it set up that every job we do has to have 2 pictures attached to it. And a couple of other issues similar to that, like just people not filling out forms properly, or filling them out and not completing them, so they were going back as drafts instead of completed forms. He was able to help us get through those few little niggly teething issues.
Yeah, and I think that's the key component with customers who come on board with WorkPal. You know, don't come on board with us if you want like a toy that maybe handles things nicely, but doesn't have much scope. You know, we have a lot of scope in the company, but our setup times can be anywhere from, you know, 8 weeks to 3 months to 6 months, and it all depends on how much you want to integrate into the system in terms of your own workflow and your own way of managing it, and all of those different factors. So it's a kind of, you were saying to me on the phone when we were setting up this call on last week that you're a year in now at WorkPal and you're starting to reap the rewards, in the sense that finally now your engineers can see the service history on all the assets that they service, now that you've put in a year's work onto the app itself.
Yeah, one of the things that a lot of the lads were sort of hesitant about was that because we had worked with other apps previously, and for some of our contractors we worked with other apps, they were putting information into the system. It was going back to the office and no one could see it after that except the office, and not even our own office. It was other offices that had access to it. Our engineers now with WorkPal, when they go to an asset, they click into the asset, it brings up on the app details of the asset, and then they can actually view the previous services, so you can see exactly what was done, who done it, when it was done, and any comments that were made. It means that when we're going in to do it, like we done a service there of a hospital with about 300 units in it, and we were able to send the guys in, and they're able to see what issues were there the last time, and see, if we have time on this visit, can we rectify it, or can we maybe take parts out of another unit that's being replaced, or it gives a lot more scope to help out the customers as well.
Yeah, and I think scope is kind of the key word for today, because we know we have loads of competitors out there, but what our USP is in asset management. Like, obviously, all mobile apps you can schedule jobs to, and you can do all these different great things. But with our system, we can set the parameters on the system to suit what's not working for you, as opposed to trying to sell you everything that will work for you. And we all know what these systems can do, but our USP is asset management in the HVAC industry. And so, we can build in great detail the forms that your businesses use. So if you're a subcontractor for a major contractor, or if you're using very detailed, say, Mitsubishi or Panasonic forms, we build those forms exactly the specification. So when it comes out the other end as a PDF, it looks like that. Do you use the form section on WorkPal to filter forms and to review forms that have come back to the office? Does that save you time rather than having to jump into each job number to find the form? Is it nice having a section committed to the forms on the app?
Oh, it is handy, because like when I click into the job, it brings up the job, the list of assets below, and I can click into each individual asset and get the forms that way. But being able to go on to the forms tab and just type in the number of the job, and it'll download everything in one go. That is very handy. And the fact that you can archive the forms once they're downloaded and compiled or sorted also makes it handy, because it means if we're lagging behind, we can see how many forms or how many jobs have yet to be sort of processed in the office.
Yeah, and it's just easy enough to filter, which I'll go through shortly, because in the next 3 minutes I'm going to jump onto WorkPal, and we're going to just basically very quickly, we're not doing a full purpose-built demo for anyone today. Today is just a look at the features that we've discussed on the mobile and desktop, and just to show you exactly what we're talking about in real time. So other than that, then the scheduling tool shows you when your engineers are on shift, when they're paused, when they're active. We've just released the ability to put holidays in the scheduling tool per engineers, which I don't even know if you know about at the moment, do you?
Oh, I do, yeah. No, I found that one. I was very happy to see that one come in as well.
Yeah, so like with the system and the company, we release updates that are not released unless they're fully tested to a level that we're very proud of it as a company. And the scheduling tool is really cool. So you can put in somebody sick, why they're sick, and then they will appear on the calendar as an absence and why. And it's a nice, neat feature. It's one that people have been asking for a while. And have you any features that you would like to see onto the app within the next, within the term of the next while? I mean, is there anything there that you'd like to see that would make your life better?
No, nothing I can think of at the moment. Now, I know I was talking to Nick about a few different items, but nothing that springs to mind. I seen though he's added a document section onto the fleet tab, which is handy. It means we can store our service records for the vans now attached to each van on WorkPal.
Cool. Well, listen, I'm going to keep you on here, go through these things, and maybe you can talk me through it as I go through. But I really I know you had a hectic morning this morning, and then this whole thing of ringing in, getting you to join us in the webinar today. We've been high maintenance, and we really appreciate it. So I'm sure the viewers do appreciate it too. Now I'm going to jump over to WorkPal here. Can you see WorkPal on my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's just go over some of the things that we discussed today. So I'll go over some of the features just to give you an overview. So for example, if we start off with looking at our forms. So on WorkPal, forms are generated, and those forms have a name. They're generated by a user, and they are printable as digital PDFs, and you can email. So everything on WorkPal is retrospectively changeable. So you can basically go into a form, make amendments to the form, be it the various different drop-down menus, We can email forms and we'll let you know whether the customer's opened it or received it because it has its own email event log. And that works across the whole system, so you can batch export forms, filter forms by engineer, filter forms by the type of form that you want to send. So all companies, it doesn't matter what company you are, if you're watching this, I know you have custom forms that you use within your company that are mission critical. We build them into the app exactly to specification, so they're easy to filter, easy to email, easy to get to and send across to customers. And whatever the form is, whether it's a highly detailed Panasonic form or just a little basic form like this, it doesn't make a difference to us. We'll build it to the spec that you require. So apart from forms, then we've got our fleet management, which was the last thing that was mentioned in the meeting. So you can basically see all your vehicle checks coming back on a daily basis. And within those vehicle checks, you can also have a documents folder set against the fleet, so you have all your records in order. But fundamentally, we have a jobs list on WorkPal, and we have our reoccurring jobs. So I take you do a lot of reoccurring jobs, a lot of planned preventative maintenance. Kevin?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of service contracts in place, and we can just set up the jobs as recurring jobs so that they'll come up 30 days before their due date on our system. It makes it a lot easier to keep track of what's coming down the road for us.
Perfect. Let me just give a quick example of that. So for today, I've set up a job. It's due to reoccur every 60 days. WorkPal generates its own job number. I can select the site, whether it's across multiple sites or a single client's address. And when I go into that client, then I can edit the job details. So I can basically press edit, brings up the job details, and from there I can set the job up to reoccur, and then I can decide how often I want the job to reoccur. I can even reoccur the job to the engineer, and then I can stop reoccurring the job when the contract is due to end, and that way we can build your report that lets you know what contracts are due to end, and that way you know to reach out to your client and renew your contracts. So within a job, WorkPal has a job number or a project. We can put in project IDs, as you can see here. And all tasks carried out are recorded here. They are basically available for the office to assign to the engineer or for the engineer to assign to a job. And not only do tasks are a way of explaining what you've done on a job, but you can also set fixed or flat rates against those tasks. Similarly, the engineer can add parts, and any assets on the customer site will be listed here. So basically, if you have a customer, you can go into their asset, you can see the make and manufacture of the asset, how many jobs the asset is open to, how many parts have been previously used on the asset, and you can go in and review each asset service report. In this case, it had a faulty valve on that day. So all of that is then synchronized and linked into the mobile application, which I'm going to jump onto here. So let me get the mobile app up. So typically when an engineer logs into WorkPal, they're going to effectively start their shift, select their vehicle from a drop-down menu, complete a vehicle check. So that vehicle check is straight back in the office. Go into their jobs list, select the job that they want to do from the drop-down menu, and then from there they have a reference point between them and the office, which is the job number. Then they can basically start their travel time, which will basically let the office know that the engineer is en route to the job, and that's highlighted on the scheduling tool, because the scheduling tool has now gone green, which lets us know that this engineer is going off to do this job, and he's currently en route to the job, which is denoted by the in transit sign here. So once he gets to the job, he can pause his travel timer, start his job timer, and complete his mission critical work. So COVID-19 checks are mission critical because some companies want to make sure that their staff are not going into another business without doing some sort of a health check. So this is almost like a risk assessment for our staff, just to do your due diligence on your staff and make sure that you're trying to look after them. It brings us straight to a risk assessment. So all companies do risk assessments. Some only once in a while, others have to do them all the time. Whatever the paperwork, if it's mandatory, we can build it into the system. Once the paperwork is complete, remember what I'm doing here is I'm filling out these risk assessments, the vehicle checks and everything. This is all coming straight back to the office in real time. So all this paperwork is already back. There's no more communications, no discussion about it. It's back in the office, you know. And once I get to this site, I can see any forms I want to add. If there's documents to the job, I can open up my camera and take multiple photographs of the pre and post stages of the works that are carried out. I can make mandatory labels against the photographs of the works carried out to make sure that the description is correct. I can go into my tasks. add a task, complete a task, leave a work summary against the task, which is super important because all of this information is collecting data. And we all know that success is measured on data, whether it's KPI or whether it's financial. So once I go into my assets, which is the key component of what we spoke about today, we can see this asset's not being serviced. We can basically open up the asset and it brings us up the parts that were previously used on this asset. We can see the notes that were taken against the asset, and we can also see photographs of the works that were carried out on this job specific asset. We can see the asset number, the type of asset that it is, the make and model, serial number, description, and we can put up to 50 asset fields into an asset in WorkPal. So if you have 50 asset fields like indoor, outdoor model, which is common enough in HVAC, we can put those in for you as well. So you can edit the asset, duplicate the asset, and you can add a service report against an asset. So once you press add, you will basically be brought up with your Panasonic service report, your Daikin commissioning report, whatever it is. That's it. This is the stage that that report pops up on the screen, and this is the stage that you fill it out. And as soon as that asset service report is filled out, it's sent straight back to the office in real time. And that's a shared asset service history between engineers, you know. So on the app, then they can add forms, like I said. So if it's not an asset service form, maybe it's a service checklist, they can open up a form pops up on the screen real quick and easy like this here, fill out the details in the form, and basically once the form is complete, that's straight back to the head office. And don't forget, if they try and complete a form without completing the question, WorkPal will bring them to that question and say, sorry, you can't complete this form until you've completed this question. And that's something that we would ensure is done on everything to make sure that the forms have some sort of a level of smartness to them and logic to them, so people have to get through them properly. And when it comes to digital form management, you can have radial dials, drop-down menus, percentages. You can actually do calculations on them as well, and you can most importantly email them to the in-house if you want to. But going back to WorkPal now, you can see the job has gone into active from in transit. And we can see there's a tick beside the asset. So what we've got now is an asset service report, which is dated every day. We can see whether it's been sent, received or not. And then we've got a job sheet. So the job sheet is capturing the actual time, parts, tasks and labor that were carried out on that site. So we can see how long the engineer or team of engineers were on the job for, the tasks that they carried out, signatures that they took, the photographs that they took of the parts and the work that they did that day. Again, mission critical, because you want to be able to send all of this to your client. Now, once the job is complete, the job will move from a completed position into a invoice and closed job position. So when I go into my jobs list, that job is gone. When I go into close, there's the job, open it up. I can see the job was completed. I can see an invoice has been generated, and I can see all the forms. So there's our risk assessment, COVID-19 health check. There's our commissioning report, all fully editable and retrospectively changeable. There's our job sheet, there's our photos, and there's our invoice. So WorkPal is sum totaled up at the fixed or flat rates that we set against the tasks when we sent the quote out to the customer. That then in turn generates an invoice which goes to your customer, and then that emails into Sage, QuickBooks or Xero. So you don't have any doubling up from an accountancy point of view. So you can see an example of it here. And on WorkPal, I really need to stress, you can set rates against clients based on first hour visit charges. You can set them based on hourly rates, and you can set them based on fixed and flat rates. So when I go in and edit a client, I can set an hourly rate against the client. I can even add a discount to the client as well. And it supports multiple currencies, it supports multiple VAT rates. It'll let you know whether an invoice was sent or not. It'll basically give you timesheet reports for all your engineers from top to bottom, parts replenish reports. Part codes can be built into the system so you know what parts have been used. FE codes are your flat or your fixed rates for services that you provide. Full list of all your assets from A to B, fully filterable from group client to site based. And then you can see on the list of assets here the amount of times they've been serviced, when they were serviced last, etc. And all of that is filterable as well. And everything on WorkPal pumps out as a report. So if you need a report for something and you want to, maybe the director needs a report and he wants a breakdown of everything, no problem at all. Everything's broken down into Excel. The system builds reports, it collects data based on the desktop and engineer usage, and all of that data then is collected in our reporting system. It comes with standard reports like your timesheets, parts replenish reports, you know, hard-coded shift reports for payroll, all of that. But obviously, a lot of our customers, we would build one or two very detailed reports, like Consolidated invoice reports are very popular for some markets. Other people want reports that break down certain fields. So we map out the fields for the report with the director or the operations manager, and we build a report into the system. So basically, in a nutshell, thank you for joining today's webinar. I've absolutely flown through it today. I want to sit a webinar with any company that was on here today, so I will be reaching out to you, or hope that you'll reach out to me. And when that happens, we can go through the system at a slower pace, and also we can go through your requirements and listen to what's not working for you. And I can absolutely promise you our team have so many HVAC companies in Ireland using the system now. I could give you a really long list, but I don't want to be name dropping, but there's a lot of HVAC companies in Ireland using WorkPal right now. It's our #1 sector. Hence, I chose this to be the first sector I was to go in on my first kind of group-based public webinar, because I'm very confident in this sector, and I think we have enough businesses on board now to win your confidence and trust that we could sit down and work out a solution for you. Thanks very much for everybody for joining today. I appreciate you're all busy. Enjoy the lovely weather and stay safe out there. Thank you.